freedom's the answer. What's the question? You're listening to Ernest Hancock.
Change, change, change. 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 Change, change, chain of fools.
Yeah, there's a chain of fools. Chain of fools out there just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over. And is it getting the result that they promised us? Of course not. But you think that was the goal? Let's go ahead and ask Terry that. I mean, that's a really good thing to ask. Terry, what is the real goal? This drug war. First off, let's go from your perspective. When you started, what year did you go into law enforcement?
1974.
Okay, in 74, that's right after the declaration of the war on drugs. Nixon administration is going, we're going to have a war on drugs. Now, here we go. We got in the middle of it, and what was the promise that was made? What was the goal?
Well, we would have a drug-free world, and that we would reduce crime and violence, and that we would reduce drug use domestically and internationally.
And what happened?
We've met none of those goals. And as a matter of fact, all prohibition of drugs has managed to do is increase the use of drugs, just as the prohibition of alcohol increased the use of alcohol. Women didn't drink hardly at all before the prohibition of alcohol, and afterwards women were drinking on a level with men. So prohibition doesn't work, never has worked in history, and it's not going to start working now.
Okay, so that's one thing I want to talk about from your, you got some experience. I mean, going from back then to now, and being in the various levels of law enforcement right in the middle of this thing, you got to have a perspective of the corrosive effect it has on not just society, but individuals. Give me some anecdotes, man. Give me a little bit of experience of how the money affects individual officers.
Well, the
corruption.
money part is the greed part, of course, but it affects so many, many different things. I mean, let's just take that's one thing we'll start with. We talk about how drugs breaks up families. Well, yes, alcohol is the worst drug in the world for family violence. Cannabis, I don't think anyone's going to beat their family. But if you arrest, and of the 1.2 million arrests made, 2.2 million arrests made last year in America, 1.8 million of them were for nonviolent drug offenses, of which 800 and some odd thousand were cannabis possession alone. Now, so the result of all of those arrests and putting people in prison is 1.9 million kids go to bed every night with one of their parents in prison. 46% of the people that go to prison have a family member there before them, and 25% of the people that go to prison come out of foster homes or institutions. So if you can't see the correlation of the war on drugs and the destruction of the American family, I don't know what is. And even if you don't have children, you go to jail, you get a felony record, you come back out, you can't get bonded in some states, you can't get licensed in some states, you can't vote in some states, so you're disenfranchised the remainder of your life, and you're not going to become the productive citizen you could become and pay taxes instead of being a drain on society. So I'm for changing the idiocy and getting something that works.
Okay, now the reason that it doesn't change, the reason policy continues down this road is what?
I believe the policy is continuing down this road because Big Farm does not want it to change. They, Lunesta and what's the one with the butterfly? Ambien CR, they don't want to compete with cannabis when it comes time to go to bed at night. The alcohol companies don't want to compete with cannabis for Joe Sixpack when he gets off work in the afternoon. The pharmaceutical companies were not allowed to advertise about 30 years ago. Sometime in the 80s, I think they started letting them advertise for drugs. And ever since then, people are told what drug they want for this pain in their knee or whatever, and they go to the doctor and say, this is what I want. So what resulted of that? Big Pharma made billions of dollars, and the political parties, both Democrat and Republicans, are equally at the hog trough on this one, receive millions and millions of dollars in contributions from Big Pharma to keep it going that way. The drug testing industry in America alone is a $5 billion a year industry. For people to go down to Walmart and buy drug test kits so they can go home and say, all right, Joe, I want you to urinate in this bottle. I'm going to see if you're using drugs. Now that, my friend, is the way to establish trust with your kids.
Yeah, I'm like, which drug? I mean, it's like, heck, it's in your food. It's just this cornucopia of crap. So I'm really interested in your perspective on how law enforcement should approach this issue, law enforcement against prohibition. So are you advocating that there be some type of action taken by people, by line officers, people out there? Should they make their views known? People that have, man, they've gotten in trouble, or should they join you after?
That's true. Brian Gonzalez was a Border Patrol agent down in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and he made the comment one day to a friend of his he was working with that he thought that if you would legalize drugs, the crime and violence would go down greatly, and they wouldn't have as many shootings along the border. Well, the guy he said it to, not in confidence, but just in conversation, sitting in two cars talking to each other, reported him, and he was fired from his job for being disloyal or something. I forget the exact charge. Now, I believe he will get his job back because the ACLU from New Mexico is taking his case and filing for him. So that kind of treatment shuts the officers up. So they're afraid to say anything because of retribution from their commanders and stuff. And their commanders are afraid to say anything because, well, I'll give you a quick example. I was at a USIC meeting one time. Now, I retired as a GS-14 Air Marine.
A what meeting?
United States Interdiction Committee meeting. It's chaired by Washington, D.C., and they come down and they talk to field commanders about the strategy for the coming year and how we're going to do it. I made the comment in the meeting about, am I the only SOB in here that thinks we're doing this wrong, or should we change our strategy here? Well, when one guy sticks his head up out of the hole and says something, about 75% of people clap their hands and said, yeah, whatever. This guy called me up in front of all these other people, probably 50 people in the audience, stuck his finger in my chest and said, Agent Nelson, you don't make policy, you carry it out. So basically he told me I'm not supposed to have an opinion. So I thought, well, you arrogant SOB, just because you have a double PhD and you come down here from Washington, D.C., you won't listen to your field commanders. So what's the point? I mean, what's your goal? I didn't ask him that, but I was thinking that. So, the people, they beat you down if you go to say something. People have a job because they need it. It's not probably a luxury. So, I had 2 kids in school. I don't want to lose my job. I shut my mouth.
Wow. And how long do you think this can continue before what's going to happen? I mean, think about it from the layman's perspective. As I've been talking to people from LEAP for, years. And it's been, I remember when Howard Woodridge did his horse ride across the country. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. And I'm telling you, the people understand. I think people in law enforcement understand. There's somebody that I'm sure they understand, but they don't want it to change. And you mentioned pharma. Who else?
Well, let's take the defense industry for one. The people that sell helicopters to Mexico and Colombia, they sell the helicopter, which really isn't worth that much money. Let's say $20 million, which is not a lot of money when you're dealing with billions. But the money is made by the maintenance contract that the military contractors make with the government. And that is a money train there. That's $1 billion money train. And that's what it's all about. If you've never read the book called The Flat Earth Society, you might want to read it sometime, because it talks about how we go into these countries and we do these things, and we give it to them on the cheap, we hook them, and then we sell them a maintenance contract for 50 years. It costs them hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and sometimes billions.
It's follow the money.
It's all about the money.
Follow the money. We'll be right back here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, and our new friend, Terry Nelson from LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, in just a little bit.